Good evening. My name is Barbara Curry. I am the Children's and Youth Services Librarian at Prattville Library. And Jan Ernest, our director, was supposed to come and speak to you tonight. She has the flu, so pray for her. So I'm filling in, so bear with me. I'm here to announce the Big Read. It's a program that's statewide that most of the libraries in Alabama will be doing February through April. And we're reading the same book. This year it is The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, which everybody on the council has. And it's a special Alabama edition. We are the only state in the union that has this exact book. You should have a calendar as well of events. And we're having guest speakers. We're having special story times for our children. We have a fence out in the front. We're going to paint the fence one day. All kinds of exciting things. We have a guest speaker coming on Thursday night, Dolores Hydock. She is an awesome speaker. She's going to be a storyteller about superstitions and strange logic in the writing of Mark Twain. And I've seen her before, and she is amazing, very entertaining. So if you have an opportunity to come down and see her, please do. But this is going on for 2 months. Homeschool groups, preschool story time. We're even having a blood drive called the Blood Oath Blood Drive in March. So that should be interesting. But if you do have an opportunity to read your book, please do. I haven't read it since high school, but I've started on it, and it also has notes at the bottom, which I like very much. So, and a study guide you have. But this is sponsored by the National Endowment of the Arts. We were given money for the books, for the speakers, for all the extra events that we're doing. So, somebody have any questions? Are
there any questions or comments? Thank you very much. I appreciate you explaining what we're going to be doing in a few minutes. You've taken a load off of me, and I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the City Council? Members of the Council, we have 7 items on our agenda this evening. Resolution number 1 is to support the City of Prattville's participation in the Big Read. Mr. Reniger, would you please introduce resolution number 1?
Yes, sir. Whereas the Big Read is an initiative of the National Endowment for the Arts designed to revitalize the role of literature in American popular culture and bring the transformative power of literature into the lives of its citizens. And whereas the City of Prattville appreciates the importance of reading and the role it plays in creating a literate and engaged citizenry, and whereas the Big Read of Autauga Prattville Public Library is made possible by grants from the National Endowment for the Arts, the Alabama State Council for the Arts, and the Friends of the Library, and whereas The Adventures of Tom Sawyer is recognized as a literary classic and a part of the American imagination, and whereas Mark Twain reminds adults that children are not angels, but fellow human beings, and perhaps more lovable for their imperfections and bad grooming. I've resembled that over the years. Now be it therefore resolved that the City of Prattville endorses the Big Read, Alabama Read programs provided by the Autauga Prattville Public Library during February and March 2010. With much joy, Mr. Chair, I so move.
Mr. Reniger has moved resolution number 1. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Bowles. Ladies and gentlemen and members of the council, if you will indulge me one moment, I get to kick off the Big Read. I'm going to read the first couple of paragraphs of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. So I appreciate you just listening to me for a moment. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, Chapter 1. Tom, no answer. Tom, no answer. What's gone with that boy? I wonder. You, Tom, no answer. The old lady pulled her spectacles down and looked over them about the room. Then she put them up and looked out under them. She seldom or never looked through them. For so small a thing as a boy, they were her state pair, the pride of her heart, and were built for style, not service. She could have seen through a pair of stove lids just as well. She looked perplexed for a moment and then said, not fiercely, but still loud enough for the furniture to hear, "Well, I lay if I get a hold of you, I'll—" She did not finish, for by this time she was bending down and punching under the bed with a broom, and so she needed to breathe to punctuate the punches with. She resurrected nothing but the cat. I never did see the beat of that boy. She went to the open door and stood in it and looked out among the tomato vines and jimson weeds that constituted the garden. No Tom. So she lifted up her voice at an angle calculated for distance and shouted, "You, Tom!" Thank you for listening to me. Members of the council, resolution number 1 is before you. Is there anything further on resolution number 1? Mr. Gillespie.
I wish you'd continue reading, if you don't mind.
Mr. Reniger.
I'd like to send a shout out to my good friend Bob Hodge. Bob, this is printed in large, bold print for you and me, and I'll let you borrow it after I get through reading it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything further on resolution number 1? All in favor of resolution number 1 in support of the big read signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed will say nay. Chair votes aye. Resolution number 1 is adopted. And we certainly appreciate our